every time that I cycle, my hope, it gets bigger. It gets stronger because I've experienced it and I felt it and I know that God was with me and I know he's gonna be with me. There's a newer translation of the Bible, the Passion Translation, and it actually says, and proven character leads us back to hope. So here's the thing. When the cycle begins again, because it will, I go into it stronger. I go into it more hopeful. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we only had to deal with one cycle at a time? But the reality is that we have many cycles going on simultaneously, and they can be all different sizes. So this large one might be an ongoing issue for you. Maybe you have a health issue, or maybe you have something going on in your marriage, or whatever. It's an ongoing, it's a big one. But then we also have these smaller ones. So maybe over here you have a bill that you don't know how you're gonna pay. And then maybe one of your children is just struggling in school this year. They're having a hard time clicking with their teacher. Their grades aren't good, so maybe that's an issue that you're going through. And then maybe you have just a little one, like a one that happens all in one day, and your child throws up in the air conditioning vent. I'm just gonna write yuck. Just a little one. And then maybe you have one that's, a little bit bigger that is a relationship issue, maybe something that you have going on with a friend in your life. And then maybe you're a student and you have a class that you're taking and you have no idea how you are going to pass this class. I have no idea how I passed physical science in college. It was a miracle of God. So remember, each trial, each problem, each suffering is running the cycle. And each cycle is not only building up your perseverance and your character, but they are feeding into one another. And they're feeding into this big situation that's going on in your life. So maybe from this situation, you learned, from this bill, you learned self-control. Like you have to budget. There was no way you could pay that bill if you didn't cut some things out. So you learned self-control and that fit. And maybe in this situation, you learned to pray, and maybe you learned when to speak up and when to keep your mouth shut. So that's building into that situation. And maybe from this one, you just learned, you know what? I can do gross things without complaining. It wasn't that bad. I got it done. So that's building into that. Maybe with your friend, you learned the power of an apology and how that made your relationship better. Maybe in this class, you're learning discipline. You're learning that you're gonna have to work and study and ask for help. So here I am in this big one, but my hope is being built up. And I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this one, but I know that I made it through before. And this time my hope is stronger. I almost called this sermon, Thank You Next. My husband always has multiple titles. I thought that might have been a good one. What I want you to know today is that you have got to run the cycle. Don't get stuck in the suffering stage. The more that you lean into this process, the more that you will be able to gain from it. There are a few things that will get you stuck in this suffering stage that will break up your cycle. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because I don't like negative things, but we should, actually talk about them sometimes. And one of those things is comparison. Nobody understands. Nobody's ever felt this way before. Nobody has felt the pain that I feel. Or maybe we complain and we think, why is this happening to me? I mean, me? Why? Again? God, I can't do this. Or maybe we blame. Because there's something in our minds that wants to have a reason for our pain and a reason for our suffering. So the easiest thing to do is just say, well, if my husband hadn't have done what he did, I wouldn't be in this position. Or if my parents had fed me healthier food, then I wouldn't be overweight. Or whatever your situation is, it's so easy to blame. And then sometimes we just get angry. Have you ever been angry with God? Just God, why did you let this happen to me? These things are all valid ways to feel. And some days you have to feel all of these things. Some days you can't get out of the bed and you're hurt and you're angry and you're blaming because your pain is real and you will want to numb. But I'm telling you, be very careful. Don't stay here too long because these thoughts and these attitudes will get you stuck. And then you'll become a resentful person. And then you'll become a bitter person. And then you're gonna smell like that dishwasher because you got stuck. Don't prolong the process of what God wants to do in your life. Yes, it hurts. But did you know that complaining, I know you know this, complaining cost Israel 40 years in the desert. It was supposed to be a 2-week journey, and they ended up being there 40 years because of complaining. I know it hurts. I know what it feels like to not want to get out of bed and continue fighting this situation that seems like it's never going to end. I know what it feels like to have a wave of anxiety hit you so hard that you have to sneak into the bathroom just to make it through the moment. I know what it feels like to not want to come to church because I don't want to look anyone in the eyes. I don't want them to see my pain. And I know that Pastor Stephen is going to make me look at my neighbor and say something to them. But I know from experience that stopping only delays the process and keeps me from what God has for me. So just like there are some things that will slow your cycle down, there are also some things that will give you momentum. One of those things for me is church. You're here. This is the best place that you can be when you're suffering. Maybe I shouldn't have told you. It's so true. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that as a pastor's wife that I have days where I don't want to come to church. But I hope that that encourages you to know that it is totally normal that when you're hurting, and you're struggling, that you're not going to want to come to church. The pull is always going to be for you to stay home. Don't get dressed. You can't see people. This is your only day to rest. But it is here. Can anybody agree with me that here is where God meets with me? And God will speak to you if you can just get here. I know that sometimes the best you got is to open up your computer and just watch online. I get it. And I know that some of you that watch online every week, you don't have an Elevation location that you can come to, but I gotta tell you, there is something special about coming together with a body of believers and getting in this faith environment and being able to pull from her faith and from his faith. And God will just give you a word that will get you through the next moment, that next step. You know, another thing that will give you momentum is having the right voices in your life. Sometimes the last thing you want to do when you're suffering is to tell someone else what you're going through. I know how that feels. Maybe sometimes you feel shame over what's happening, or you just feel too hurt. You can't even talk about it. Or maybe you feel like nobody could possibly understand. But I have been through some situations where the words and the prayers and the encouragement of some of my friends were just life to me. And I know that it's counterintuitive that when you're here, the instinct is to withdraw. But when you are here, and you open yourself up and you're vulnerable with a person that you trust and you say, I'm hurting, I need help. You experience an intimacy in this place with that friendship that you cannot experience when everything is awesome. It's a special place when you have the right people. Another thing that's small, but it's huge for me, and I don't know if it is for you too, but have any of you ever had a song that just got you through? A worship song? We're so blessed to be able to have a church that the songs that come out of this church, they're just life-giving. For me, Unstoppable God was an anthem for me during that time where the news media was running all of those stories. I still, to this day, how many times have we sang Unstoppable God at Elevation Church? And still, every time they sing it, even if they just do a little tag, I tear up because when I sing that song, I remember the promises that God spoke to me during that time. It's funny because songs, they're kind of like smells. Have you ever, and all of a sudden when they started playing that song, you put yourself back in that moment and you feel the pain, but then you feel the joy and you feel the presence of God all at that time. Get you a song. Get you a song that will get you through this time. Do it again. I mean, that one works every time, for every situation. A couple weeks ago, we sang the song, This Is How I Fight My Battles. I don't know if that's the title of it. It was exactly what I needed in that moment. There are some things that you can do that will give you momentum so that you can run the cycle.
Hey, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. And share this video with a friend. And don't forget, you can join me live every Sunday. Thanks again for watching.